So, there's no doubt about it that the Acolyte series is by far the worst production under Disney's wing when it comes to Lucasfilm, when it comes to Star Wars, and it is by far, in my opinion, worse than The Last Jedi as far as backlash levels go. We have never seen a backlash like this before when it comes to a Star Wars production under Disney, and that's exactly why, as much as Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger in the beginning wanted to renew this for a second season, they just could not do it because of how atrocious the show really was, with the Nielsen ratings report, by the way, which numbers don't lie, especially for the finale, which by the way hit an all-time low, even for Star Wars. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, Leslye Headland, the director and the showrunner of this thing, really wreaked havoc over at the Disney company, and for all many different reasons. Now, we know that there's a lot of things going on right now over at Lucasfilm HQ, during the aftermath of the Acolyte, in the wake of the overall Acolyte cancellation, and everything that really happened in between. Everything between Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, and how there's now a shakeup between the two, even a shakeup between the board members, at least some of them, and Kathleen Kennedy. It's basically becoming an ugly mess for Lucasfilm. Now, focusing on Leslye Headland, this is where things begin to get quite shaky when it comes to her overall impact at the Walt Disney Company, resulting in a loss of millions upon millions of dollars for all the wrong reasons, in a very similar scenario to what happened with Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny by Kathleen Kennedy and James Mangold. Let's dive into this, shall we? Now, specifically, with the Walt Disney Company already dealing with the fallout from the Acolyte backlash that led to its official cancellation, one monumental development going on right now has more to do with Hedland and her negative impact at the Walt Disney Company after all the drama that's been going on at Lucasfilm. Now, one crucial update to this entire situation now involves how, as it turns out, Hedland was the one that cost Disney millions and millions of dollars that weren't even necessary, that is already throwing the Disney heads into a frantic state to rethink who they hire from now on over at Lucasfilm to write and direct upcoming Star Wars projects, and already Kathleen Kennedy is getting the blame for hiring Hedland. Now, one eye-opener coming out of this development now involves how Hedland demanded the Walt Disney Company to tackle on another $50 million more to the production, as it turns out, of the Acolyte for many scenes that ended up getting deleted and tossed anyway, and that episodes were promised to be closer to 1 hour long each consistently, which never turned out to be the case. The shocking turn of events is that the budget for the Acolyte originally, get this, was supposed to be $130 million flat. Not 131, not 132, 130 flat. Now, Leslye Headland, however, convinced Kathleen Kennedy to make a deal with the Disney heads to up the budget for the show to shoot all the extra scenes that they thought were necessary that never were put into the final version of the show. Many of those scenes included more cameos and surprise moments from familiar aspects in the Star Wars brand that cost an extra $50 million. One scene specifically, for example, cost around $10 million to film, was a very elongated lightsaber duel between the Stranger, Osha, May, and Vernestra using her light whip. The entire scene was going to last roughly 10 minutes long in length, was initially promised by Hedland and Kathleen Kennedy to be the peak of the show at episode 7. Now, this scene was ultimately cancelled by Leslye Headland during post-production, and it left Disney in a very frustrated state with the director that they had hired. Another major scene, for example, that cost around $7 million, involved a one-on-one saber duel between Osha and May on top of a series of cliffs, where their set designs were reportedly very expensive to build, however not as expensive as Leslye claimed it would have been. So, let me just say one thing about this, guys, for one moment before we move on, is that, yes, $180 million is a lot. Yes, $130 million, as originally intended, is still a lot of money for a show like The Acolyte, which, by the way, if you watch it very closely, there are many moments here where the set designs are very cheap, very much subpar, heavily overused with CGI. You can just see that the stagecraft technology has a lot of flaws at times. You could just tell that it's a screen more often than not. But focusing here on Leslye Headland, the fact that they were actually going to stick with the $130 million budget, and $50 million went down the drain. $50 million worth of scenes that were supposed to be tackled on to each and every episode of The Acolyte, nearing each episode to 1 hour long in length, didn't make the cut. And you guys may have heard this like 8, maybe 10 months ago at most, that The Acolyte was supposed to be consistently around 1 hour long per episode, as opposed to the fluctuating episodes like 40 minutes, 39 minutes, 47 minutes, 52 minutes. They wanted to make all of those episodes nearly 1 hour. Now, on top of that, this scene was also thrown out for no reason at all. However, the most surprising aspect of this is that Leslye convinced the Disney heads to hand this down to the marketing team, that they needed to overfund their marketing campaign to make the series a success, and Kathleen Kennedy put in a good word for Leslye to the Disney executives. Now, these false promises handed from Leslye and Kathy to the Disney executives are exactly what created the ongoing divide today between the Disney company and Lucasfilm HQ, after they lost $180 million plus for the Acolyte series, along with a good chunk of subscribers leaving Disney Plus that were signed on for Star Wars programming only. So that's the bigger deal here, is that they lost Disney Plus subscribers. The overall margin we're not quite sure of just yet, but the main Disney Plus subscribers that ditched the overall streaming platform were those that signed up specifically and only for Star Wars programming, whether it's a TV show or whether it's the movies that they like to watch. So that's a problem. I mean, that's a very big problem for Lucasfilm, very big problem for the Walt Disney Company, and it really is very revealing when you have those out there like Hedland, who said, we need these scenes to be done. We need these scenes to have a budget of this or that, around that margin. And this is very much the same exact thing, by the way, that happened with Indiana Jones 5, where Kathleen Kennedy and James Mangold were demanding Disney that they had to have this specific budget for the movie and X amount of scenes to be implemented into the product. And a lot of those scenes never made the final cut of Indy 5. Same exact thing. And this is exactly why I say that Disney deserves everything that they get, because they never learn from their past experience. They just like to keep shooting themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking, of course. And there's a lot of things going on with Bob Iger, because we know that Bob Iger's cost containment plan seemingly just isn't working. It seems very much inconsistent, lowering the budget for some projects, but heightening the projects for others, or heightening the budget for other projects out there. So that's another problem. And it really brings one to question, right? With all due respect to RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., do you believe that he should have that $90+ million payout for playing Doctor Doom? I think that's a lot of money for Disney, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not that succeeds with Doctor Doom as with RDJ as Doctor Doom. But overall, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.